America, my name is Osei-Frimpong, and I'm coming to you live on this Monday afternoon. And today we're going to talk a little bit about this guy, Collingwood. He's a mid-20th century historian and kind of a philosopher of history and just kind of a thoughtful guy, and how he kind of understood progress and the role of history in understanding progress, and why progress isn't really what we think it is in a way, because there's a way in which everything that we progress, when we improve upon, we still take an element of the bad along with the good, because we have this notion of progress where, you know, you take the good and you make the good better, but you get rid of the bad. But really, it's not that easy to disaggregate or to separate the good from the bad. So when you preserve the good, even in a lot of different ways, when you preserve the good, you're also preserving the bad in some aspects of the bad. And also when you're getting rid of the bad isn't 100% triple distilled 300 proof bad. It is, or 200 proof bad. It is imbricated with some aspects of the good. So when we get sloppy about this, we don't understand how our actions in the present are affected by what we have taken up from the past. And when it was the good and the bad were a little bit more explicit in the past, so you can study history to understand like what you have taken up and the stakes of why, like, you can kind of understand like some of the things that you've taken up that you don't know that you've taken up and why you've taken up. But first, my kids are very eager to come say hi to the people. So they're on summer vacation. So come say hi to the people. Come say hi. Come one at a time. Hi,
people.
Hi, people. Hi. Hi, people. There's Graham and Bayard, my children, my progeny. All right. And where we are. Thank you. Hello. And so yeah, the house is full for the next few days, but we have a good time, and I will meet you upstairs. And we still have to do slow math, right?
Yep.
And I did the math with you, right? Yeah. All right. So I'll see you guys in a few minutes once I talk to the people about progress. Want to say hi? One more.
Bye, people.
Oh, you want to say bye to the people? All right. Say bye, people.
Bye, people.
All right. I'll see you. I love you, Bayard.
See you on the next, Daddy. See you on the next video that Daddy makes.
Okay. So, we're going to talk about progress. So the notion we have about progress is that when we take the good, we just take the good and we let the bad go away. All right. The notion we have about progress is that we have kept the good and we've somehow purified it and gotten rid of the bad. But what we don't understand is that in the good that we've kept, we've also kept some of the bad. It was never triple distilled, 200 proof bad. And in getting rid of some of the bad, sometimes you've gotten some of the explicit bad. You've gotten rid of some of the natural predators, some of the organic predators that were kind of keeping in check some aspects of the impurities of the good. So now you've gotten rid of the bad. You have what you think is good, but now there's some aspects of that good that were an element of that good that were implicit or were checked by an explicit bad. But now you've gotten rid of that explicit bad, and now that aspect can run unchecked. And I think there's both feminism and liberalism are movements of progress that have kept good, thinking that the good that they've birthed was uncomplicated, and it turned out that it's made both feminists and liberals like inadequate to govern. Like, you don't want them governing things, and this is bad because I want things governed by non-conservatives. And when the alternative are liberal feminists, like, they don't understand the bad that they bring in, right? Because we don't really understand why liberalism is bad. Why can't people do what they want when they want to? Well, serious people can't do what they want when they want to because they live in a world with other people. And when you live in a world with other people that depends on other people, where your life depends on other people, you have to be accountable to other people. You have to perform and produce for other people. And that includes doing things that you don't necessarily want to do. And if you're not taught that at an early age, you become ungovernable, unteachable, and pretty much useless. Or you strategically use it like for the most nefarious cases, because you understand that that's the world that you as an individual live in. And so you just become this mercenary who feels empowered to do whatever they want, whatever pays the best. All right. So like you just become an awful person in a different way. All right. So liberals are awful in like myriad ways, but we think of it as progress, right? So, and the feminist example is I think a little bit more interesting because it's another reason why Democrats are like unfit to govern. Right. So you would think that it would be just an unmitigated good movement, but we don't understand that there was some perks that especially elite women had under the ancient regime, the ancient regime, the pre-feminist America. There were some perks that they had that like now they want to retain in a post-feminist regime. Right? There are perks where there was a naturalized morality where we assumed that women weren't fit for public business because they were too good and too pure and too innocent. But now we've put them in public business, but not gotten rid of that assumption. So now we just have a hard time holding women accountable for like, their role in public business, right? Especially elite white women. But, this bleeds out, and people who aspire to be elite white women, there's a general accountability problem. So they could screw up the COVID response, and we still don't have any sort of like, nobody can tell the NPR set anything. Like they could screw up the COVID response, and we still don't have any sort of like pushback about like, you're bad at this. They could be bad parents, and we don't have any pushback about like, actually, like you're culturally unfit to be a parent. Like unfortunately, it's both ironic and like a little bit unfortunate that liberal feminists are the worst parents in the United States because they don't know how to like discipline their kids into like real people, into responsible people. It's kind of the best they have is kind of a gross classism, but in general, like liberal feminists are the worst parents in the United States because there's no dignity or discipline in what they do. So they let the kids do what they want and let the kids choose what they want. And then surprised when that doesn't work out, or when it does, and they have to buy all sorts of alternatives and medications to make it the case, right? So we don't understand that there was good in the identity of womanhood that we've taken, that was imbricated with some bad sense of entitlement that we've taken up in the name of progress. And then we haven't actually addressed that normalized and naturalized morality, or the tacit presumption that people should be able to do what they want. That was also part of womanhood that was taken up in progress. Or the people, not just that people should be able to do what they want, or the normalized, naturalized morality and presumed competence. Because true equality doesn't presume any competence. If you really want to treat men like women, you have to assume that women are just as incompetent at parenting as we presume that men are. And it's true because women are just as incompetent at parenting as we presume that men are. But we don't know how to talk about that because we haven't actually thought that was part of the inheritance that we've taken up in our understanding of womanhood. Right? It was explicit before where we just naturally said, well, women are natural parents and men are natural hunters and all that kind of ghost stuff that we got rid of with the gender progress. But we still normalized some aspects of gender discourse, and we don't say that women are as naturally incompetent as parents at parenting as men are. With men, you just know that like you got to think and you got to study and you got to like work this out. It's not presumed the same with women, right? So there are. So what thesis do I want you to take from this video? I want you to take this video that when we progress, we like to think that we take the good and we get rid of the bad. The problem is the good that we take was never pure good. It was always imbricated with bad. But now it's been, the German word translates to sublimated, but it just gets covered. It gets taken up and retained, but made implicit. Right? We naturalized women's morality explicitly before. Now we just do it implicitly, but it causes that implicit naturalized morality just causes other problems because now we have a hard time holding them accountable. Right? So, and also some of the bad things that we have progressed from were never really triple distilled bad. They actually served a function in that society. So we've gotten rid of some good aspects of society. I think liberal parenting is an example of this. Like we thought we got rid of all the bad things when like we just became liberal parents. Let the kid do what they want. No, that was always trash. That was attached. The discipline that came in a family with standards was always attached, and a good thing attached to a lot of other bad things that can be indexed to the content of those standards, right? So liberal parenting actually ends up being worse than, unfortunately, conservative parenting, which I've done videos on this before about, like, look, if you want to, it's shocking to see how good some of these conservative dads are with their daughters because they take that seriously. And to how bad some of these liberal moms are with their daughters and son because they've normalized or naturalized equality of morality and they think they're just more competent than they are. So what we have to do is understand that a lot of the bad things we got rid of were never all the way bad. And so we need to understand the history of them, how like it worked in that society, because it was explicit, the good and the bad parts of that way of being and the presuppositions that held them in that society. And then it becomes implicit when we think we get rid of the bad, but then that bad actually had some natural predators to some of the impurities of our good, that we've gotten rid of those natural predators. And now like what we consider good, or, either liberalism or feminism, now the natural predators of that, like ideological predators, like ideological and felicitous aspects of the liberalism or the feminism can now run unchecked. And this is one of the reasons why, like I said, nobody can trust Democrats with governing. Nobody can trust Democrats with governing because they understand themselves as the vanguard of progress without understanding that they're bringing up a lot of like parasitic, deleterious views in what they consider progress. That's attached and imbricated really close with their liberal ideology of like, freedom and equality and being able to do what you want. It's almost, you would think that at the surface, that's great, but that's not how you run a society. And that's not how you raise people in a society. That's not how you reproduce a society. That's not like the disciplinary structures required. That can't account for the disciplinary structures required to both sustain and reproduce a society that's worth living in. And so you have to cover that on all of these other, kind of hypocrisies in order to function, which I think is unbecoming. Right? So the good that we've taken up has these bad elements that we don't really talk about. And the bad that we've gotten rid of had good elements that we don't talk about. And if we actually took history more seriously, we'd be able to see these things explicitly in both our contemporary world and how they relate to what we thought of progress from the past. So we like to think that we're progressing from, the 1940s to the 2025s. But the problem is we don't know that we got rid of some things that were actually better. Not just as a nostalgic thing, like it was better back then. No, there were some aspects of the bad that we got rid of that actually were doing functions. And then there were some aspects of the good that we retained because we didn't become a whole new people, like whole cloth. No, we have an element of ourselves in ourselves. We have an element of our past selves in ourselves, and in that element, we like to think is good, but is actually good and bad in ways that are not obvious. All right, so I hope this has been helpful. If you appreciate what I'm doing, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademics.com, kick in $5, $15, and $50 a month, because I know that nobody's talking about Collingwood on progress and history the way I am across these entire internet streets. There's a great little book of essays. Collingwood wrote, edited by Daniel Boucher. Maybe David Boucher, 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 on his political philosophy. But also he wrote a nice book on nature. His book on nature is actually really good because it's like a historiography of how we conceive of nature and being, whether it's made of material or whether it's just vibrations, and like what nature is, what things are, and what has changed over time. And it's actually a really good book on that. So, but he also wrote another book on history, which I actually helped me think about how to think about history and the work of historians, and thinking how to get that subjective aspect of people acting and how to make that explicit in historical work, but still supported by evidence. So Collingwood's just a good thinker. And then this latest book I'm reading, his book of essays, he's just talking about how we think of progress in one way, but progress doesn't really work that way. And it's important to understand how progress actually works, and the metaphysics that we bring into our understanding of progress actually matters. So if we think of we're just taking the good and getting rid of the bad, we're not really looking at some of the ticklish aspects of the good that we're taking in, and we're not really looking at some of the kind of virtuous aspects of the bad that we've gotten rid of. And then we can't be surprised when we unleash a beast because we've gotten rid of all their natural predators. I think No Fault Divorce is a good example of this. You would think that would be an unqualified good, but it turns out the fault of the necessity of showing fault, and just the understanding and the culture of that, like you can't just willy-nilly end your marriage, was actually a good thing for society. Was actually a good thing for society in a complicated way. So it needs to be managed differently. You can't just get rid of it. You can't get rid of the stigma of divorcing your spouse just cause, and expect that to be an unmitigated boon for society. It turns out that was a disaster. That's actually what I'm writing my dissertation on. The idea that, no fault divorce is a form of child abuse that we just can't talk about as such, because that is déclassé, but it is. All right. Thank you for your time, and I will talk to you about something completely different on another day. Hope you have a wonderful week. Peace. Bye.